Hello, listeners, and welcome back to the Community Exchange podcast, where we talk to friends old and new about their careers and the future of the media industry. I'm Matthew Scott Goldstein, better known as
MSG.
Thank you very much. As always, the Community Exchange podcast is brought to you by OpenWeb, the company building a safer, fairer, and more trustworthy internet. Now we have a great conversation for you with Lindsay Van Krik, SVP and Group General Manager of Decipher at DDM, better known as Dotdash Meredith. Lindsay is a product pro and ops specialist who loves turning big problems into scalable solutions. Okay, Lindsay, go.
Thank you so much for having me. I was going to say, I am Lindsay Van Krik, otherwise known as...
I don't know what you're talking about. There's no other three-letter acronym in this conversation. LVK, There, you got it. Okay, Lindsay. Can we start with your AppNexus role, right? You said it was 2012,
Yes.
so almost 13 years ago.
Yes.
What did you do at that great company? Tell us about it.
Yeah, so I joined AppNexus when it was, I think, around 250 to 300 people, post-Series C at least.
And who was running the company? I forget back then. Another three-letter.
Brian O'Kelly, otherwise known as Buck.
There you go.
We love this industry loves an acronym.
Yep.
So like, I almost feel just at home because I can be an acronym. And so I started in 2012 and I joined to help scale our sales operations team. I had been previously at a small ad network and I had been the first person kind of working on sales operations, and I had sort of reached a ceiling in my career where there was no one at the company that I was at where that I could kind of learn some new functional skills from, or a leader who had kind of gone through what I had gone through before.
Right, you needed a real boss.
Yeah, I needed a real boss. And I had some very good bosses, but none of them knew how to do what I wanted to do, which was sales operations, go to market, more the like COO type of trajectory.
Because you knew what you wanted to do.
At that point, well,
most people don't.
I mean, I wouldn't say I knew what I wanted to do. I had found a thread of interest, and I wanted to pull that thread all the way through to kind of get to be done with that, essentially, until I was finding something new. And so I found AppNexus sort of like on a whim, doing what you could do in 2012.
Who was your boss initially?
My boss was named Debbie Stevens, and she was one of the best bosses that I had over my entire career.
Where is she now?
She works at a company, I think, called Melio.
Okay.
we're gonna have to make sure I get the name.
Shout out to Debbie Stevens. Let's tag her, producer Andrew, when we release this podcast.
Yeah, Debbie really was the person who brought me into adtech, and she was the like VP of all of sales and revenue operations at the time. She was building and scaling her teams, her functions, and she brought me on to build and lead one of those functions. And so I spent a lot of time at that time in the company's life cycle. We were going from the way that we had done deals had been really opportunistic. We had a huge business, but our sales team was doing a lot of custom.
Who was running
sales? I believe at the time the sales leader was Lauren Nemeth.
Okay.
Who was an incredible...
Yes. Know the name, yes.
Yeah, she's an incredible sales leader. She's an incredible executive. I look up to Lauren tremendously, still to this day. And we finding just ways of scaling the sales processes. And candidly, we were at a point where if we didn't get a little bit more rigor and standardization into the way that we were doing contracts, we were at a point of like, we had almost too many custom things that the rest of the back office was going to kind of collapse.
And was AppNexus lightning in a bottle at that point, just taking off?
Oh, it was huge. Like we had so many deals that were coming through. Like part of the problem was we had so many contracts that we were processing. We had so many opportunities that the team was managing. We had to get all of those things into a place where you knew what the status was of everything that was coming through, what things were custom, where we were going to give versus where we needed to push back on some of our earlier clients. And so we built up a huge amount of infrastructure in Salesforce, in a deal desk.
Oh, I hate Salesforce. I hate Salesforce.
That were just like giving us, but I mean, like
I know
everybody hates Salesforce until their CRO comes to them and says like, what's the pipeline?
Yes.
And then they're like, oh shoot. Like,
let me check that Excel sheet I have over there.
I wish I had a system that just sort of told me. And so we built out some pretty like robust but nimble infrastructure to support the scaling of that business. We built out a team that worked with the sales team to kind of help them craft their deals, make sure that they knew what they could say yes to, what they had to push back on. We built a sort of way that you could bring deals that needed sort of extra attention to a team of everyone who had to sign off on it, from like finance and legal,
DSP,
all those.
SSP deals? Who were the deals with?
At this time, we were working on exchange contracts. So these were everyone who was plugging into the exchange.
Okay.
And I ran that team, grew and ran that team for two and a half years.
How big was the team?
Team was about 6 people.
Okay.
And we had a pretty robust amount of coverage because the sales team was growing and expanding into new markets and all those things. But again, sort of, I reached that point where I was ready for a different kind of challenge and I wanted to take on more. And I felt like I really understood the business, because there's one of the ways you can really get to know a business is into getting into the weeds of the contracts that you have with customers, right? Like understanding all the nuances of like what you say yes and no to and why. I spent a lot of time with our legal team. They gave me like a little gavel at the end of my career at that job because they were like, you're an honorary member of our legal team
It's
now.
amazing if you think about what that job would be today with AI and how different it would be. We'll get to that later, but like so different. Okay,
yes,
go on.
It would be so different. But it was also amazing because that team ended up going on, like some of them have had amazing careers.
Okay, drop the names. Who was it? Who was in the team?
I want to make sure I get all of their current names right, because this was also like a young team, and I think some people's names have changed at different points, but first names were like Maria, Reuven, Aaron. We had Courtney, Eric. There's a guy, Eric Taribu, who I think is still part of the Microsoft team, who started there and now is running.
But doesn't it make you feel great to have these people all have
successful
careers and you help them get there?
I mean, at that time, like this was my first job as a manager. And so like saying that I helped them get there is probably like a very loose statement. Like in a lot of ways, that team helped me as a manager probably more than I helped them.
So symbiotic.
Which was really just like, I think everybody at some point in your career has the moment when you're like, oh, I was actually not a good manager in that job. And I actually had the privilege of my team telling me that I was failing them on several fronts. And it was one of the most impactful growth moments for me in my career there, was just being able to like take some really, really, really tough feedback from people who were relying on me to help them with their career growth, and like them telling me that I was kind of letting them down.
You're so fortunate to have that early in your career.
I mean, like what a gift, right?
Yes.
Like I was in my early 20s when I got that, and I was
crazy.
like, oh shit, time to grow up and be an adult and like focus on the things that really matter. And so for that team, like we all had very long careers at AppNexus, and
you were at AppNexus for 9 years or so?
9.5 years, yeah.
Okay.
And like when I left, I was still working with many of those people who were still at the company in various different roles, who'd grown into leaders in different functions. But then after I was done kind of leading that team, I was ready for something new. And so I actually joined a team that was starting up within AppNexus. It was about a 10-person team at the time, led by a guy named Ryan Christensen, who was the VP of product for the publisher side of the business.
So now you went from like the ops person, now you're moving over to product.
Moving over to that side of the world. So I actually
which is not easy to do.
Not easy to do. And so the pitch that I made to Ryan, the job I took with him was basically I led strategy and operations for the business unit. And essentially I was like a chief of staff in that type of role. For Ryan, who was a general manager. And we had about a 10-person team when I joined, and I would like to say I was doing everything from like ordering swag to building board presentations in that job. It was very wide-ranging, and it was one of the things that I think probably gave me the best exposure in my career to how to run a organization end to end, from sales all the way through engineering. Like all of those functions rolled into Ryan eventually as a GM on the publisher side of our business. And so we were a 10-person team to start. And then very quickly we bought 2 companies.
Who'd you buy?
OpenAdStream and YieldX. So we were building the
Tom,
SSP.
whatever his name is, right?
Yes. Tom Shields.
Tom Shields, that's it.
One of the grand parents of advertising technology. One of my...
and that was a publisher-facing product.
It was. Yeah.
So then you went from 10 to...
We were, I think, a 350 person business unit with OpenAdStream, YieldX, and a portion of the AppNexus team dedicated to the publisher side of that business.
And you were the key product person then?
No, at that point, I was leading strategy and operations.
Okay,
so
still.
more like business operations. Okay. Again, like working with our product leaders, our engineering leaders, our account management, our client service leaders, our sales leaders, everyone across the business to be like, okay, here are the goals that we have to set. Here's the vision for the business. Here's what we want to be in 3 to 5 years. How are we going to get there? And what are the pieces of this that are going to matter the most in individual, like sort of chunks? And I still come back to this day. One of the things that was like very meaningful that Ryan brought to us was this concept of a core strategic vision that asks you sort of like, where are you going? How will you get there? And why will you win? Like 3 very basic
But you remember
questions.
those things all the time.
I remember them all the time. And I think about them when we do any element of planning for things like Decipher, which I lead now at DDM.
What were they again, the 3 things again?
Where are you going? How will you get there? And why will you win?
It seems very simple.
It's very simple, right? But when you actually get down into thinking about, okay, like what are those real things that it will take for us to win? Like if you can't answer those questions, you don't have a strategy, right? Like if you can't sort of give yourself enough of a destination. Anyway, so I learned a lot working from Ryan, just like alongside him, supporting him as the GM. I got a sort of front row seat to what it was to be a GM and to operate in the context of a bigger company, right? Like running a business within a business was the thing that Ryan was doing and that I was supporting him in doing. And so it was a hugely, like, it was one of the most special moments in my career at AppNexus, in part because the team that I was working alongside with Ryan they were just the most incredible group of people.
Well, I also believe that Brian just brings great people into his organizations too.
It's one of like his
it's a superpower.
best qualities.
Yeah.
Yes. And this so this team was just like on fire, and we had a lot of success on the publisher side of the business, in part because we also, I think, had a real strong sense of who we were as a part of AppNexus, not just that it was AppNexus and we were all in it, but that it was also like a special group to be a part of within it. And then after about, I want to say about 3.5 years working for Ryan in that capacity with that business, I was also sort of ready to do something new. And like another one of those like hard moments in your career, Ryan actually, I went to Ryan and I said, like, what is it going to take for me to be a VP of operations, or like to be be on a COO path?
Big, right, the big.
Yeah, like I wanted something bigger. And
you know how many people though like want to be on that COO path? Yeah. Like it's a great thing.
But he actually looked at me and he goes like, I don't think you want that. He's like, I don't think you want to be doing like this kind of work. And he laid out for me some things that the company was doing. And I was like,
another gift he gave you.
A huge gift at the time. Like it's like, you see, like patterns are often like pain, but then it's a gift, you know, like after you get through it. Originally I was like, how dare you? And then I was like, oh no, he's right. That's not actually what I want to do. And so he challenged me to actually go think about what is something that you really want to go and accomplish. And how are you thinking about, like, you've done all of this internal sales operations stuff. You've done this business operations and strategy and sort of like cross-functional collaboration work, like moving the business to a set of outcomes. What other tools do you want to have if you want to be even higher up in your career? And then that sort of unlocked this idea for me that like, oh, I need to actually go work in the business running a function for a period of time.
Okay, so where'd you go next?
So
with Ryan's help,
I stayed in the publisher side of our business, and with I pitched him this idea. We had a set of clients that, you know, we weren't really working directly with a large portion of the open internet at that time because the AppNexus platform was very, very powerful. And so if you sort of had all of like, it's like handing the keys to a Ferrari to a 9-year-old, right? Like if you don't have a certain level of sophistication within your business, the AppNexus platform itself was not going to do what it needed to do. And so we came up with this idea of like, what if we could, you know, and this was also at the time when pre-bid was starting to take off and becoming like a really transformative technology, we said, okay, what if we can use pre-bid, the AppNexus core, and a trimmed down user interface to plug in directly to our exchange a larger volume of like real publishers, but who would not otherwise work directly with AppNexus because the cost of onboarding them would be more significant than potentially the revenue. But if you add up all of those publishers together, it's a really large market to go after. And like I pitched that idea to Ryan, he was bought in. That's the first job, I think, where I worked for Patrick McCarthy at that time. They took Michael Richardson, most recently at Samsung, and they said, okay, Michael, you're going to lead the like product and development side of things, and Lindsay, you're going to do everything else to launch this as a business.
So you became like a little GM then?
Yeah, a little bit. Okay. So Michael and I were like partners in sort of launching the like direct business.
What was it called?
Internally, we called it Project Jello.
That's such a bad name.
When you invite Michael Richardson on, I'm sure he will tell you why we called it Project Jello.
Okay.
He wrote a whole thesis as to why we called it Jello.
Okay.
And I don't exactly remember all the details of why. But we launched it, and I started just cold calling publishers. Like I remember one of the jokes that Michael and I had was he was like, if you can go sign boats.com, I'll buy you a steak dinner. And so a month or two later, I called him and I was like, hey man, you want to know what contract just came through? Boats.com. It's time to pay up on that steak dinner.
Luger's?
It was a place in Brooklyn. I can't remember the exact name. I have a photo of Michael at that dinner. But so we launched this product. We built a new user interface. We talked to the design team. And we said, like, one of the things AppNexus hangs its head on is having white glove service. Like, what if you could make this user interface feel white glove without having to have an actual human interaction to it? And the design team took that very much to heart and built a very beautiful system that answered all of the core questions that these publisher partners had about whether they were making more money from plugging in AppNexus directly and using this new interface. So we had some early success. We onboarded our first kind of cohort of clients. And then the company was like, okay, this is working. So then they gave me 2 salespeople, and we started going out and calling.
So now you're a real GM with a number.
Now we're like, and now we've got a sales. I'm actually like more of a sales leader at this point.
Okay.
I'm like, I've got a sales team.
Which is great to learn.
Loved it. And so we built this whole playbook, and the sellers that I was working with, they were like, I don't know if this is really going to work. Like, and I was like, listen, I've closed like this many deals so far. I've got everything on this wiki space. Like, if you send these emails with these templates and you follow this pretty like rough script, like you're going to close more deals than you
I
really
love how you did all
understand.
the salespeople's work.
And they were like, okay, we'll give it a try. And so they joined me on a couple of sales calls, and the close was very fast. And they were like, oh, okay, I see how like you've now told me I can do it and shown me that you can do it. Now, of course, I can go and do this. Okay. And so we built out this sales team that was really focused on going into this space and driving as much revenue as possible with these partners. And then we built an account management team that was supporting those clients. And it was a much more scaled effort than what some of the other parts of the AppNexus organization were doing. We had a lighter touch framework. We had more tooling that the team was working on. We had one person from services who was supporting our account managers and like getting them a little bit more technically minded, but like not really crossing that line into like, all right, doing actual
your attention to detail and your memory of all this is fascinating.
Well, I mean, because it was transformative for me in my career, right? Like this was like, we launched this product and we went from 0 to a $20 million run rate in 8 to 9 months.
Lightning in a
like,
bottle.
It was like very special. And I was really proud of the work that we did there. And after that, that was another sort of like 2 years worth of work. I moved over and started working with Brian more closely on our marketplaces. So that team transitioned over to someone who was ready to like operate it and sort of put it into its next phase. And so I then moved into product strategy, working on our marketplaces. Okay. So that's when I really...
Is this your first real...
Yes, this is my first real product
What year
job.
is this now?
This is 2017.
Okay.
And I remember this because it was the year that my dad died. And I was about to take on this job, and I remember like I went on vacation. I had sort of like ended my old job and I was getting ready to start my new one, and I had taken a week of vacation. And on my last day of vacation when I was in London, my mom called me and told me that my dad had brain cancer. And it was like stage 4.
I feel like giving you a
he was
hug
dying.
now. This is so sad.
And so like I immediately called Brian and Ryan and Patrick and everyone that I was going to be working with and for. And I was like, this is my news. And they were like, go be with your family. I think the person at AppNexus who was on some of the things that I was going to be taking over and was transitioning to a newer, bigger job, Andrew Eifler at the time also called me, and he was like, I will stay on and help you with as much of this as I can.
Good people.
And that was just like, that was how the AppNexus team was. Like, they were like, go be with your family, figure it out. And like, even to the extent that they were like, hey, if now's not the right time for you to take a new job, like you can have your old job back. Like you don't have to do this right now. And I was like, no, absolutely. I want to do this. And so I started like working on our marketplaces product and also like being with my dad as he was in the process of passing, which was a tight window that happened in the course of 3 months. But
okay, so let's we need to. I just want to hear about the whole getting to DDM and your little break and everything.
Yeah, sorry, this is a long story. Yeah. I should like shorten it up a little bit.
Because otherwise producer Andrew's gonna be like, "What the hell are you doing over there?"
No, yeah. Okay, so I started working on the marketplaces product.
LVK.
Totally. So I started working on the non-AppNexus owned DSPs and non-AppNexus owned SSPs and how we maximize transactions there. Patrick and I spent a lot of time getting that marketplace.
This is Patrick
McCarthy. Patrick McCarthy and I spent a lot of time getting our spend through the ecosystem above $1 billion. Okay. That was like our major milestone.
Big number.
And then right before AppNexus was acquired by AT&T, I took over the demand side product team, working on the actual AppNexus DSP under Suzanne O'Kelly.
So you went from one side to the other side now.
So I went from sell side to marketplace to buy side.
So you're seeing the whole thing.
Yeah. So I'm not seeing the entirety of the ecosystem.
There you go. Someone knew what she was doing.
And so that was my first real product development role. So I had worked on product strategy and had done all of that as in my prior role. But this was actually product development work, and it was a new skill set, and I was learning it with my team. We were doing a lot of learning from each other. It was one of the things that, again, at AppNexus that was special, was everyone was learning and teaching all the time. And I learned a lot from Suzanne and from that team, Sarai, Eva, that whole organization. And after we were acquired, we actually went in and pitched to the AT&T AdWorks leadership that was becoming Xandr that we launch our DSP as like one of the first Xandr branded products out in market. So we had been going through the process of taking all the functionality that was in the AppNexus exchange and called console and pulling out the things that mattered to traders, because otherwise it was getting a little confusing with some of the other bells and whistles that were in that platform. So we took a lot of that Cape functionality and put it in its own standalone UI. And we took that moment to say, okay, let's brand this as Xandr and launch it as a product. Okay. So we did that work in 2019. I remember that because we launched it, and then almost a month later, I had my first toddler.
Okay.
So we were like launching, like having a baby and having a baby at the same time. I led that team for 3.5 years before it was time for me to take an ad tech break.
Okay, and then I would really want to hear the ad tech break, because I'm sure other people think about this. So then you decided, okay, enough of ad tech. I want to go into...
Yeah, I took a break and went into fintech. So I found a company that I liked who was sort of on what I believed to be a really strong mission at the time. They were helping homeowners be more competitive in multi-offer situations by basically turning their mortgage-backed offer on a home into a cash-back offer. And I thought that was a very noble cause. It's like, yeah, let's keep actual Americans in homes instead of having to rent from large corporations. That was a Series B startup company. It was also like in real estate at the time when like real estate was really booming. This is post-COVID, 2021, like housing market is going bananas.
So my $64,000 question is, you're in fintech, you realize it's not right for you.
Yes.
How the hell did you get back to working in ad tech for JR?
Yeah, so I actually got a call from Michael Rubenstein, who was the president of AppNexus, who I worked with and closely with for a number of years. And he was consulting with DDM at the time, and he called me and said, "Hey, listen, like you've launched businesses within businesses before. We think you have I think there's a job here for you.
You know,
with
supply,
DDM."
demand, and marketplace.
Exactly. And so at the time, I was in a job where I wasn't really looking.
Was he working for Neil or
I was
JR?
working with like the whole
Okay.
sort of like DDM leadership
Okay.
team. And so I took the call from Michael because it's Michael,
Yeah.
right? And then he was like, "I just think you need to meet this guy, John Roberts. He's like the
here we
nicest
go.
guy in ad tech." And I was like, "Okay, yeah, like I'd like to meet nice people." And so I had a coffee with JR, and he was like, "Are you interested in learning more about this opportunity?" I was like, "Yeah, I am."
What was the exact opportunity then?
This was being the SVP and GM of Decipher. Yeah, at DDM.
Now that you told me the backstory, it makes all the sense in the world. It's a perfect fit.
And so that's kind of what the job was when I got to DDM. Was we had launched Decipher.
So Decipher's launched already.
It was at, yes.
JR launched it.
Yep.
And then he
a
needed
huge team of
someone
people
he handed over to so he could do his 55 other things.
to start. Yeah. And like the first question that we sort of tackled when I got there was, okay, we've got this amazing first party data asset.
This is DDM with their 150 million, whatever the number is.
This is DDM with the 40 brands.
Okay, but how many million uniques are there?
I think it's 200 million monthly uniques across the portfolio.
Yeah, it's
as big as it gets, right? 2/3 of America, it's covered by DDM from a readership perspective. Like,
and
it's
JR with
huge.
his British accent meets you and says, "I want you to now run Decipher." And you're in fintech. You're like, and so what happens? You're like, absolutely.
Well, I mean, for me, I was like, I think that one of the things that I liked about AppNexus was that it was a very special group of people. And
JR is such a...
it's really hard to find those groups of people.
Yes.
But when I met the DDM team, I felt like I was back with my 2017 AppNexus colleagues, right? Like the people who will have your
Patrick
back,
at DDM
who will
there,
be
or
there.
you pulled him
Patrick was at DDM, and he was one of the
Oh.
people I called, and I was like, "What's the real story, man? Like, give me the inside scoop. Like, don't."
And he's like, it's a real deal.
And he's like, "It's a real deal. So it's
Okay.
really good." And I think I also gave
This is the best backstory of connecting dots. I love this.
I also gave him enough information about like what was going on with me to be like, "Yeah, this is this will work for me. Like, I like this job. This is very good." And just like I met the team, I met Joetta, I met our CFO and head of strategy, I met our chief product officer, and it's just
Did you
like,
meet
these
Neil?
are my people. Eventually I met Neil, yes.
Did you meet BD?
I did not have to meet BD before
Okay.
I took this job.
Okay. You want to tell everyone who BD is?
Barry Jello,
Diller.
yes. But no, I mean, like when I met Neil, like I sat down with him and like we started talking about women's basketball, which is a personal passion of mine. And I was like, okay, I think we can.
Yeah, I'm in.
We're gonna hang out.
Okay, so now you're running. What year is this now?
So this is that was the end of 23. So I joined in January of 24 at DDM.
And you've been
leading
there for a year and a half.
Been there for a year and a half.
And now you're the boss of Decipher.
I'm one of the bosses of Decipher.
No, you're the boss of Decipher. Who is the other boss besides?
Well, so Jim Lawson recently joined us. He
Okay.
was the former CEO of AdTheorent. He's now the president of our Decipher business. And he is another like amazing human being. Like we're very lucky that Jim is on the team, and he's really helping us think about all the things that we have to do to scale quickly with a type of business.
Right.
That
And the elevator pitch for Decipher is?
we help you find audiences. If you are a marketer, we help you find the consumers who are interested in your product without using any cookies.
Okay, because you have the data on everyone inside your 40, is it 40 sites?
Yep, 40 plus brands. And they're like, because the DDM content is so focused on helping answer questions for consumers.
It's all intent-based.
It's all intent-based.
As Neil says, I'll pat it back, no news, no sports, no politics.
Nailed it. Absolutely nailed it. Yeah, no news, no sources, because you can't get any signal from any of those things. They don't tell you about what someone is really thinking about in the moment.
300%.
Right? But all of our content does. It tells us what someone is actually interested in. If you're on 529 plans on Investopedia, if you're looking at recipes for teething humans, if you're on parents.com reading about setting up a nursery, like you are a parent. We don't have to know anything else about you. The thing that's unique about Decipher is all of that context paired with all of the actual user behavior that we can see. When you pull those things together, it's when you get those really unique and interesting insights, like things like parents who are reading about disciplining kids on parents.com read chocolate cake recipes on all recipes 8 times out of traditional consumers. Or other patterns, like we can see things like people who are reading about resizing a wedding ring are likely to be looking at arthritis content and getting diagnosed with arthritis. It's like an early signal that predicts what's going to happen in your real life.
So like you and Google know that, and that's about it.
Yeah, that's right. And so it's those things that you can't connect by the words on the page that makes Decipher really special.
And Decipher is growing. It's big. Is there AI in Decipher? Can you talk a little bit about the OpenAI piece with Decipher?
Absolutely. So,
oh, by the way, just today is July 1.
July 1.
And DDM is a publicly traded company, and there's certain things I'm not going to ask, we're not going to talk about at all. Just let me get that out there.
Thank you. Our comms team is grateful to you.
I promise them.
Yeah, so one of the things that we work really closely with OpenAI on, specifically for Decipher, there's a bunch of components of how OpenAI and DDM work together. So obviously the first is that they are a licensor of our content. That means that they pay us to get access to train the models on top of all of the content that our editors write. The second piece of it is that there's attribution. So anytime any of the answers that ChatGPT presents to a consumer is made up of the majority coming from one of our articles, there's an actual link that allows you as a consumer to go and like look at the actual article.
Which this all dovetails the Google Zero we'll get to in a second as well. Yes.
And then the last piece was the infrastructure with Decipher. So we have worked with them and they've provided us technology that allows us to make better connections between our content. So the underpinnings that OpenAI provides allows us to just like look at content differently at a more granular level.
Does OpenAI have the best engineers you've ever worked with in your life?
Honestly, a lot of the, like we're mostly on the technology side of things. So we are like consuming their technology products on the most part.
That's pretty cool though,
yeah,
right?
It's really cool.
To be cutting it, because I think it's amazing what Sam Altman and team are doing there.
Yeah, they're an incredible company for sure.
Okay, and then how's this all go together with Google Zero? Can you explain Google Zero a little bit? Because I think, who coined that term?
Yeah, I'm not entirely sure who coined the term.
Okay.
But essentially the idea, I think, behind this is that as a publisher, you have to think about getting traffic from other places that are not tied to Google. And the reality is we want to be meeting consumers wherever they are consuming our content, and we're making content that's fit for purpose for any of those different environments that they're in, right? We've got social channels, we've got all these different ways that consumers can get to us. And AI tools are one of those channels that consumers are now in where they're consuming information. We're just leaning into that.
Right. And does it also mean that we also believe that Google's never going to send any clicks to any publishers down the road? They're trying to keep everything inside Google world?
I mean, it is really hard to predict what is going on in the minds of Google at any point in time. I will leave those machinations to JR and his side of the universe. But
can you talk a little bit what happened last night with JR and a couple other people, like with Cloudflare?
Yeah. So I don't know. So you'll have to have him on again to talk about the
We're not having him on again. We're not having him on again. That's why we have you.
But essentially, this is just another step in reinforcing the position that DDM has had for basically since I've gotten there, which is that AI companies need to pay publishers for the right to train on their content. And what we are now in a position to do is to, with Cloudflare, basically say, like, these are the people who are playing ball and these are the people who aren't, and blocking the ones who are not willing to participate in the conversation about that, right? And that's a meaningful step forward, not just for us, but for the industry
It's the first step the industry at large has made about actually blocking the AI scrapers.
And I think that it's meaningful because, again, like, we are very pro AI when those companies are willing to pay to actually have the content to train against. Like, those writers who I now sit in an office with, this is one of the things I love about DDM, like, what they're doing every single day is extremely brave and requires a lot of human thought. Right.
They're creating original content.
Original content. Like, they're in the world, and then they are taking their perspectives and, like, writing about what it is like to, like, be in the world in specific scenarios, right? And AI can't get that from anywhere else. Like, it has to go into the real world. And that's why, like, all the things about like AI companies having like glasses and things like that, I'm just sort of like, I roll my eyes a little bit, but it's one of the things that they're trying to solve for is like, how do you get real world information that you can actually train your models off of? And like, that is hard work. Like actually sitting down and writing an original thought that is like very valuable and that you can use to communicate with other people is really hard.
And they do it every
single day. And they need to get compensated for that work. And we as the publisher need to get compensated for that, especially when it's getting used in all of these different contexts.
And if you fast forward in a world where they don't get compensated, publishers don't get compensated, it's not a great world.
No, it's not a great world. It's not a great world for us as consumers either, right? Because you end up with like AI models trained off of other AI inputs that leads to this like very bad outcome at the end, right? Where it's just going to be total garbage. I mean, honestly, like think about the last time that you had to write something and like when you use ChatGPT to help you write it. Like,
but it's when I write, it's all my original thoughts that I write, and ChatGPT helps me just phrase it a little bit better.
Yeah, sometimes
but
that's
without
the
my
case.
original thoughts, it's garbage.
Right. Like I did an exercise the other day where I was like, my one of my product leaders and I were redoing some of the roadmap and strategy thinking for Decipher, and I asked ChatGPT to do it for us too. I said like, hey, what would this look like? And I looked at some of the outputs and I was like directionally some of this is good, but like some of it's also just like word salad.
Oh,
and like I actually don't think I can tell anybody what this really means.
it feels like that a lot when you go to Gemini or ChatGPT or Perplexity.
There's a lot of word salad. And so like the difference between something that actually has meaning, has thought, has a human interpretation that you can then take out of it and back into the real world, versus just word salad. Like we still need humans writing original content. We still need humans like reviewing what AI is putting into the world in many cases, because it's not at a point where it can operate independently in our universe.
Okay, let me ask you this question. What's the future outlook of the open internet with a positive perspective?
So one of the things that I love about what we're doing with Decipher is that within DDM, it's been able to help our advertising partners value inventory that they would have otherwise either like thrown away or not thought of differently. It's those connections, like if you're an entertainment brand, maybe you're very focused on people.com and Entertainment Weekly and all of our core marquee entertainment focused brands.
Makes sense.
There's a ton of content and engagement from our Southern Living readers around entertainment. Same for Real Simple. And so being able to
connected those
and
dots.
Because we've connected those dots, we're actually able to have our marketers have a more diversified sort of exposure set to consumers. We've given them incremental consumers that they would not have otherwise found with identity strategies that they're using, because we're using the article, the URL, as the key for whether or not it's the right moment to reach that person. And we're now starting to do that beyond DDM's supply. We're bringing that intelligence, our first-party data, to the rest of the open web. And I think the opportunity really, as it stands right now...
there's a bunch of publishers I know who would like to partake in that.
I know. And like step one was like, make sure you have something that's actually valuable that applies, and then figure out how you scale that. But I think that that's the positive outlook for the open web, is that there are still real humans who are in these brands, whether they're DDMs or other people's brands or other companies' brands, every single day looking for answers that come from other humans. They're looking for things that they need to know.
And do you think there's a human web and an agentic web? Do you think about that at all?
A little bit, but I think that the agent universe is still so nascent, and also still requires a lot of human in the loop as well. I honestly don't know what an agentic open web would look like. I haven't thought that deeply about that side of it.
To me, the agentic open web is, I'm an AI company or any company. I want to license content from a marketplace. I pay a nice sum for that content marketplace, and then I regurgitate it all and send it back to whatever you, LVK, wants.
I see.
I don't go to DDM, but I get you whatever you want in your own little agentic world, but I'm paying for all your content that you've made with those brilliant people who make stuff every day.
Yeah, I think
we talk about it, but it's not out there yet. Who knows what it's going to be like?
Yeah, and I think that it also sort of like, I think one of the things that you sort of have to have in that world is kind of like an understanding. Like one of the things I think that we struggle with AI technology in general as consumers right now is that oftentimes answers are driving to a sort of like common denominator, right? They're trying to get you like one answer instead of a variety of answers to things, right? And I think that until we kind of solve that challenge of like how to really think about like diversity of like output to the consumer, not just like an answer to the question, like that is like kind of like, that's like a precursor to what we were just describing, right? It's like you have to figure out how to like have enough nuance and enough optionality presented to actually give people an answer.
For me, I would say if I go back to news, there's 15 news sources I like. I want an agent to pay properly for those 15 news sources, come back, give me what I want with correct attribution, and give me updates every 30 minutes. And if something special happens, give me an update and sort of do the hard work for me so I can consume more of what I want when I want it. But I want to make sure all those publishers get compensated rightly, because right now they get compensated because I see an ad.
Yeah.
And how does that work? And I go back to like, because you said it, like, what's the marketplace needed to facilitate the AI companies getting the content from the publishers? Because every AI company is not going to do 1,000 or 10,000 deals. You need something to figure it out to emerge as the marketplace. I'm just using because you use that word.
Yeah. No, I think you're right. And the other thing I think that we have to be really clear about is making sure that these things are fit for purpose, right? Because in that example that you just gave, one of the things you might lose is the writer's voice, right? And like there is like to some extent like one of the things that at least for me is important when I consume content is actually the writer's voice. Like I don't listen to every podcast. I listen to the ones where like I actually enjoy.
And I think it's the writer's voice in your ear is different than the writer's voice that you're reading.
In the page, right?
Yes.
And again, I think that that's an actual craft. And I think like when you replace that with some of these AI tools, like again, figuring out not just what the like information is that feeds the model, but like how does it present itself in language for humans with voice is an entirely different challenge.
And I think it depends on how people want to learn. Like I like learning in my ear when I walk my dogs in the morning.
Yeah.
Other people want to learn different ways.
I think
the agentic web will give you the information depending on how you want to consume it.
Yeah.
And it might be video, it might be short form video, who knows?
Yeah. It creates a lot of optionality from that for sure.
Okay. Lindsay Van Krik, a couple more questions and we're going to wrap it up. You said you love baking.
I do love baking.
What are you going to make us? I love peanut butter. Can you make me something with peanut butter?
Well, you're in luck. So I was telling you this story before and I'll tell it now too. One of the first ways that I got to know a lot of people at AppNexus when I first joined was I had decided I was signing up for a marathon. I had signed up to do the Marine Corps Marathon, and I was doing it as a fundraiser and for autism research. I have a younger sister who's autistic. And I went to my husband and I was like, I'm never going to hit this fundraising goal. There's no way I'm going to get there. And he was like, you should just have a bake sale. Like bring in one thing every day to the office, make it like there's a free desk next to you, make it a donate what you want and take whatever you want type of situation and like see what happens. And so I baked my signature like peanut butter oatmeal chocolate chip cookies.
Oh, I'm stopping
which
by.
I will make for you. And it was like people would stop by and they were like, these are really great cookies and it's nice to meet you. And I got to know so many people from it. And then eventually they were like, you have to do this again. And so I did it one more time. And then people were like, when is bake sale week happening? It became like bake sale week as a thing. And so then it was like, okay. And as we got bigger and bigger, obviously like I could not personally bake at night after work for like
so then you had a
hundreds of people
to bake for you.
So I actually like rallied a bunch of people who also love to bake and was like, this is the week we're thinking about doing bake sale week. Everybody want to participate. And I had so many people who would like bring in trays of goods and we would put it in different places all around the office. And we had donation jars and it was just one of the most beautiful things.
I'm putting my order in now for the peanut butter, oatmeal, whatever cookies.
Yes, that's great. I will let you know when I've signed up for my next half marathon.
Okay, thank you. Producer Andrew, thank you for making this happen. Lindsay Van Krik, I guess I'll say it, LVK, thank you for everything.
Thank you for having me.
Listeners, thank you. Let us know what you think. Drop us a DM. Lindsay, thank you again. It was awesome.
Thank you so much.